Thank you. We're back. We're back. Thank you, guys.
Generous crowd tonight.
They're on fire. I don't like how they just stop.
They're loving us out there.
Man, we got those guys trained pretty well. Hey, welcome to Carbonite Bounty BS, your Star Wars show. We're here with the nerds. I'm Steel City Hitch. I've got DP Brown with us and a new Hope Ken. Awesome name this week. Welcome to the show. This is a review for season 1, episode 7 of Ahsoka, the new series from Disney Plus. Welcome, everybody.
Good to be here. Dreams and madness all the way around.
Hello, internet.
Hello, internet, and all the webs.
And all the webs.
Yes, you're especially
all the webs worldwide.
And they are wide and webby.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
We're not talking about Spider-Man here. We're talking about Star Wars.
No, just Star Wars, man. It's Star Wars.
Why does it feel like we didn't even do the reading this week? It's going to be a long class. So before we get started, why don't we just throw it to DP and have him give you the rundown?
All right. There's nerdcyclopedia.com, people, your favorite website where you get all your favorite social media platforms with us at Nerdcyclopedia on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and also TikTok. All right. We see you, looking at us on TikTok, so we definitely appreciate that love and everything. Watching us on, if you're listening to us on podcast, check us out on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, which is now YouTube Music. So anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast, we are there. If you're watching us on YouTube, smash that subscribe button and also the notification button. So anytime that we're on, you know that we're on. If you're watching us on Facebook, thank you as well. Join our Star Wars Carbonite Bounty BS, a Star Wars group where we talk about everything Star Wars related, and we get a good community going on. Leave us some feedback too. Nerdcyclopedia.com. We love getting all your feedback and giving it right back at you.
Thank you very much, DP. Always a pleasure.
Hey, thank you.
That's terrible. No. All right, this one. So we have a little bit of everything here. I tell you what, Ken, why don't you start us off? What were your impressions on the episode?
Man, the band is back together. I mean, I had the whole A New Hope vibe through this whole episode. I mean, we have our band of rebellious warriors that are facing, momentous odds. We can't even imagine what they're going through. A couple, first, I want to say that opening scene where we got our Golden Man back in there completely tied this very nicely to the original trilogy plus Rebels. I mean, we had this all connected. I did wish that we got a hologram of Leia, like chewing Senator Zano out, like in person, as we never really saw Leia after Jedi, particularly like being a senator. So I think they could have maybe put that data disk in like a CD-ROM player and had a hologram come up, and I would like to have seen her. But other than that, I mean, this episode hit everything out of the park for me. Particularly love the end battle where we are again treated to multiple battles going on in different places. A lot of great lightsaber action. Ahsoka doing her thing, coming up against Balin and not really having to show all her cards, and getting away in a cloud of dust. And the expression on his face when she got away from him was priceless. I mean, what was going through his head. And I still like where this is going. Like, we really don't know what his game is and what Shin's game is. So they could go either way at this point. Thrawn's definitely stealing the show with his thinking 3 or 4 steps ahead of everybody at the table. I mean, this guy's on to dessert when everyone else is having an appetizer as far as a battle plan goes. And Morgan, I sensed a little bit of maybe frustration. I mean, how frustrated can a night mother, or whatever her actual witch name is, how frustrated do you think she is when this mortal is kind of handing her head back to her, belittling her, and making it known that he knows what's going on, she doesn't. It was some really great moments with him. It's a big win for me. Music was great too. Lots of nice battle scenes. So this was Star Wars in a nutshell.
TP,
what do you think?
Yeah, Dave Filoni loves Star Wars. I mean, when you get a shot of CP3O and everything, then Dave Filoni loves Star Wars. He loves him to Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, out of all the Star Wars series that we've seen so far, this is the most Star Wars series that I can just imagine, as far as like vibes and just feel and all that stuff. And it's a good thing, because it just keeps the spirit of what this whole thing is, and reminds you that Star Wars can really be anything, but at the heart of it, it is Star Wars. Okay. And what I mean by that, it has the same, lighthearted energy. It has the battle between good and evil. Everything isn't super complex. It doesn't have to be. Even though we love Andor and everything, that was just another element of Star Wars. But you can almost argue Andor wasn't Star Wars, even though it was an outside element. This feels the most like, authentic to like the spirit of it and everything. Ken, you was talking about Thrawn. This is we finally get to see. Well, we just got introduced to Thrawn live action last episode, so to say we finally get to see Thrawn, being a master strategist is a welcome thing to establish his character and everything. He, like you said, he's thinking 10 steps ahead, and we're seeing him just being calm, cool, and collective and everything, and not worrying about nothing, because he's already thought far ahead on everything, and he's already anticipated Ahsoka's moves and stuff, and and using the time element that's sort of like against her for him,
Mm-hmm.
So that was just Thrawn being Thrawn, and I'm here for it. Elsbeth, she's frustrated because she can't think that far ahead.
She's stuck in the moment.
She's stuck in the moment and everything. So of course she's going to be like, huh? Oh, what? I'm surprised Thrawn isn't just getting mad at her and everything. But Thrawn, I love his demeanor and his mannerisms. Balin, need to see more of him. But he, of course, he comes through. Ray Stevenson just comes through. Ahsoka, the lightsaber battle between them two was great. I would have liked to see Ezra with a lightsaber, but I understand why he didn't weld one, because to have Sabine handed him all over his lightsaber, or that lightsaber and everything, when she had it this whole time, would have just felt like it wouldn't have felt right. But just to wrap it up, it's a great episode.
Yeah, man. And to me, the real heart of this episode is this reunion between, Ezra and Ahsoka and Sabine, and getting the band back together. And I think we saw so much of the Rebels cast. Even Zeb got a mention. I mean, he got a name drop. We saw Chopper getting, to say something about his pet peeve issue, which is, droid autonomy and droid equality. We got to see a little bit of everything, and I really like that. You're absolutely right, Ken. The thing that really seemed like if there's a miss in this episode is that there's no actual Leia, and that's the thing about Leia as a character. I don't know that you can get away without her being involved in a lot of this stuff, and that's a pretty glaring miss, and it's a pretty glaring omission. I think having C-3PO be her emissary makes a lot of sense in the sense of that's his literal only job, and that's how we see him start out, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the very first thing he does in Star Wars. But at the same time, it does feel like a missed opportunity. And they're going to have to make the decision one way or the other. Are you going to use some sort of, computer generated imagery to recreate Carrie Fisher? Are you going to like put that on top of another actress, or are you going to have somebody portray this character? We obviously, it was appropriate to have a very different actress playing Leia when she's a child, but they have to make a decision. And this is not, it's a more touchy subject because Carrie Fisher isn't with us. They would not hesitate to show us a CGI Luke Skywalker. They haven't hesitated to do that.
Right.
So I think it's a very interesting question of what they're going to do here. And I think putting C-3PO in this scene and having this be the resolution for that piece of the plot for Hera begs that question of what are you going to do about Leia moving forward?
I think Band-Aid for the moment.
Yeah. For sure, right? I mean, and if you said, hey, that's just how it is going to be for a while until, it's not too soon, then I get it. But at the same time, there's any number of people that could have come to the rescue here, including Mon Mothma herself. And talk about how Andor is maybe not Star Wars and this is more a Star Wars feeling. Mon Mothma is the big direct character link between those two shows. I mean, she's on both. And so we see someone who's, she's wary and she's learned the lessons, but she's a lot less reckless than she was during the Andor years. She's not going against the flow. She's governing from a standpoint of harmony, not necessarily as if she's trying to do anything specifically good. And I think that's an indictment of the New Republic as it's portrayed in this series, right? And it's just like this wishy-washy. I don't know. It's almost like the real mistake they made was letting the Empire back in at all, like any of them. They weren't willing to take the hit and just not deal with any of the Imperials. Right. And brought them back, for expediency. And I think they're really paying a price.
They left them there because they understood the landscape, the technology that the New Republic now is the backbone. Their backbone was all Imperial. So you had to have them there because they knew the passwords. They knew how this infrastructure worked. They had access to all the tech, the technology. So you had to have them there. Now, are all of them like insurgents? Are all of them got something going on in the background? I don't know.
I think that's true, right? And you're correct about justice, I suppose, and that there probably are some more innocent Imperials than less innocent Imperials, right?
Right.
But the show has also and Mandalorian showed us this too, that there is a very healthy sort of fifth columnist movement afoot with previous Imperial officers. So, this, and I think that's what gives a lot of what Hera's saying in the opener a lot of weight, is that we know she's right. She's absolutely correct, is that these Imperials are planning on, coming out and doing the surprise thing, right? There's a Simpsons bit where Russia presses a button and the thing flips and it's the Soviet Union. And it's like, ha, 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 ha. Like, it seems like that's what they're all waiting on, is just some figurehead to come back. And we know over time, the Emperor does come back. Mm-hmm. We know that ultimately in some timeline that we've seen, the Emperor somehow returns.
So you're saying, well, once a Nazi, always a Nazi, right?
I'm saying that there's a certain amount of chocolate you can get in that peanut butter where if the chocolate's bad enough, you don't want
anything to do
with it.
Yeah. Yeah. The ideal thing would have been to cut ties, all ties and everything. But since
but they didn't.
But since we know how this goes,
it's ill-fated.
Successful with whatever he's trying to do,
Whatever that is, right? That's still a mystery here, which is interesting. And it's interesting for them to carry that mystery over to the finale. It definitely seems like we're not going to be like these two threads, the extra galactic thread and the New Republic thread, aren't going to be meeting next week. So that's going to be something they're going to leave for the next season. And it'll be interesting. I kind of want to know how they politically got to this settlement, right? Like what happened with the fall of the empire, like how the empire collapsed in such a weird way that ultimately people are like, well, the emperor was pretty evil, but none of his lackeys really are getting a lot of the stink.
Yeah,
and the emperor had them do some pretty evil stuff, but everyone's sort of just like, well, if I asked you to kill someone, would you do it? Nope. Well, what if Sheev asked you to do it? You definitely will.
But that's the part of the story that hasn't really been told until now, because all we had at the end of Jedi was a funeral and celebrations all over the known galaxy. And as you watched the special edition, you saw scenes from Tatooine, you saw scenes from Andor, you saw scenes from Coruscant, where it just was hey, we're done with this evil, and we're going to topple these statues, and we're just going to be all fuzzy now and happy. But we never really saw that part, right? That's never really been told. It was supposed to be told in the post trilogy, which basically dropped us into a world where there was a new order. Like it all came back. Well, how did that all happen? How did the Empire actually still have a hold on this? We never really saw its demise and restructure. We're kind of getting the restructure point right now. We're actually seeing how that happened. Yeah. But I don't think we really got the story of how it was squashed. Except
there's a term that's been coined by Mike Duncan, who's a history podcaster and is the person behind both the History of Rome and the Revolutions podcast. And I'll just put it up here. He calls it the entropy of victory, whereby when you win in a political settlement, after you win, the winning group devolves into infighting almost all the time. Like they never maintain unity after overthrowing a government. So there's this concept that you always fracture once you get control.
Because you always have to be at odds with something.
Right.
If you're not, then what's the point of you? Why do you have a council? Why are there leaders if there's no one to fight against?
Why do you need an army at all? Why do you need a standing army if there's no war?
So that's
a question that begs itself.
Pretty smart. So you're always assuming there's someone out to get you.
Yeah, you start creating enemies, or you start creating boogeymen.
Well, you get a stake, right? So once you're in the big chair, you all of a sudden there's consequences to your actions, right? And so when you're not in power, it's very easy to say that you won't compromise like I am, right? Like that's too much Nazi for me. No thanks. It's very easy for me to push myself away from the table because I don't have a lot of skin in the game. You know what I'm saying? But once you're in charge and you start having priorities and you start carving things up, I mean, that's how you ultimately you get weak. It happened. I mean, even the American Revolution, for instance, right? Things devolved until there was essentially a political settlement where the Patriots won. A lot of the loyalists left. They went to either Canada or England, and then they carved up what was left of the United States amongst themselves. And then it devolved until they were fighting amongst each other, right? So there was politics like there's Federalists and Anti-Federalists, but they were all anti-monarchists. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you see these divisions crop up. I would be interested to see exactly how like the fall of the Empire like played out after the end of Jedi, because it seems like there was some sort of like something rotten in the batch.
They still had a hold. They still owned things. They still either owned, like we saw in Andor. What was the big hit that we were trying to get against the Empire? We were trying to hit them where it counted, with their money, with the payroll. So there's something that the Empire still they're not. There's no Death Stars. There's no dark brooding Vader walking around. There's no more Jedi. There's no more of the visual stuff, but they still own something. There's still ownership somewhere that has not been removed. So I think it could be the economy, it could be the technology, because if you ask me, if I'm looking at two sides, and you can either join the rebellion or you can join the Empire. And I see the Empire, and they got big Star Destroyers and like lots of laser guns and cool uniforms. And I might be swayed that way. They had the technology. They had the advanced technology over the, say, rebellion, which became the Republic.
Yeah, you get more attracted to what looks like strength. You get attached or attracted to like all the shining, glitz, and glamour and stuff. I mean, I think Hitch is making a real great point about not having skin in the game, not being in power and stuff. But once you get into that situation, like I said, you could either create a new boogeyman or the infighting just starts going to like tenfold. Where beforehand, everyone was on to like a certain point, then all of a sudden, no, we don't have this enemy to defeat anymore. So, what else are we gonna do?
What are we gonna do? Who are we gonna fight now?
We gotta fight something. So let's start fighting each other.
The other thing is, let's say parliamentary system, just for ease of divvying here, you have a 90%
historical hit.
You have 90% like normal, right? No Nazism, bad, right? And 10% of the seats are the Nazi party, right? So that 90% is going to say, I don't want to work with the Nazis. Why would I ever want to work with the Nazis? 90 to 10, everything the Nazis want, right? Well, over time, that 90% devolves into 46, 44, right? And that 44, once their priority is to be brought from a policy standpoint, oh, I know who's got 10 seats. You know what I'm saying? I know who's got 10% of the vote that we can grab. The Nazis. So what? Some of the stuff they want to do is not that bad. I mean, come on, clean parks, highways, some of that stuff's like not the worst policy.
Big shiny buildings. I mean, they got the new cars. They got all kind of stuff. Huh?
Right. Their favorite. The sports thing is all right, but there's a lot of stuff that's not great about the Nine. You can't let some of it. That's the thing about Nazism. You can't let some of it in. You let all of it in, right? You can only open the door or not. So what's happened here is that some faction of the New Republic government that's in power is willing to collaborate with the Imperials, and that has gotten them into power. So that's why their coalition government's acting like this. And the door is open to the Empire.
Yeah. And all that mixing of like, ideologies and stuff, you can't, you're dealing with like, I guess you want to call them human beings or whatever. You're dealing with like personalities that I guess don't fully understand because no one person is totally in control. So of course you're going to have this intermingling of crap, and something has to fight through, something, that alpha whatever is going to have to rise up, and a person like Thrawn sees all the sees everything that's going on and is 10 steps ahead of everyone. So, who's best to come in and, lay down the beginnings of the First Order.
Yeah, and it was amazing that he had this whole thing. He's not even worried about Balin or Ahsoka. He could care less. He's on to something else. He's been loading up whatever the cargo is.
Coffins. Yeah. It's coffins. It's like, we're almost full of coffins. We can leave very soon. We have all the coffins we need.
Whatever they needed to get off this planet, as far as cargo and whatever mineral or ore that they've been mining, because that's the Empire. They've been to make all the tech. They have to mine all this weird stuff from planets where Lothcats live, and they have to completely rape the land to get all this stuff to make the TIE fighters and make all this stuff, whatever. And he's been doing that in the background, and we don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the cool part. We don't even know what it is. So it's like this thing. It's a third character in the, it's a third baddie that we don't really know who it is yet. And Morgan was so focused on Ahsoka. Like that, focused on Ahsoka. I just did that.
Yeah.
That Thrawn just overstepped her, and she was like amazed at that could even happen.
Yeah, it's like she didn't even know who she was dealing with. But I mean, it's funny like that. Oh, touching back on to a point where Hitch was talking about Organa, Princess Leia and everything, and how they're going to have to make a decision at some point on what they're going to do about that. I wholeheartedly agree. He was talking about CP3O being like the emissary and everything, for this. Another thing I was thinking, they're going to have to address Luke Skywalker at some point throughout this whole thing.
Yeah.
Because everything that's going on for the siblings not to be involved in it just doesn't. I mean, because of the timeline and everything, yeah, it's not right. So I don't know what they're going to do, but if they have to recast, I'm fine with it. But it has to be addressed to me.
Mm-hmm. I think it has to be addressed because we know Leia knows what's up. Like, now that you've brought her into the ring, you can't leave Luke out. Because for one, Luke would know something weird. Like, I feel like Thrawn returning is going to be big news to everybody, right?
You think?
Big news. So I think Leia's going to be, I think Luke would be like, oh crap, I feel that. I probably ought to give my sister a call and ask her what's going on. Even if he is in meditation zone at wherever he is, Messiah Temple, Jedi Academy, I don't know. Whatever Luke's up to, he needs to get involved in this, especially because we've been conditioned to think that he will get involved with a Star Wars TV show. And we've been conditioned to believe that A1 characters do get involved here. Leia's kind of involved here. And we all probably agree that if this were 10 years ago, Leia would have showed up. It's not 10 years ago, but if it was, she would have showed up at there. So, I think it's interesting. Like, did you guys know that after World War II ended that Winston Churchill lost the election in 1945 to maintain power in England? Did you guys know that? It was a
popularity contest.
Yes.
No, I mean it was because the people, the Brits, clearly felt that he failed them during the entire engagement and left them to just be bombed endlessly for night after night after night, and he didn't pull the trigger when he should.
Well, part of it actually comes down to him wanting an austere governmental monetary policy, and it being kind of inappropriate for rebuilding after a war. But suffice to say that they kicked him out, and he came back 10 years later, right? Mm. So if Leia is anything in Star Wars after the original trilogy, she's the Winston Churchill of this group. And it's interesting to see her being in charge of the Defense Council. And Ahsoka also telegraphed this reverence for the rebellion that's out there, right? And there's this moral authority that rebel leaders have by showing us that ceremony at the beginning of the series, where all the people are going to get together and celebrate the Empire's destruction day, and that they revere these heroes that got rid of the Emperor. Well, Leia and Luke and Han are probably on the short list for most
they were left involved.
Yeah.
So like Leia showing up and being like, hey, I was involved with this, has a lot more to do with all the stuff she did during the rebellion and how Mon Mothma doesn't have the political muscle to push her off the Security Council even like 5 or 10 years later. Leia's still running the show when it comes to the fleet. And it's because she's basically like, I don't know, like the Admiral Zukov. Like that's who she is here, where she's like, okay, well, we beat the Empire. So now, are you going to challenge me? You're going to challenge me, Leia Organa. You're going to get into like a ball measuring contest with me. Good luck. Like, right. So I think, what's going on with Leia is important for the politics of the rest of the series. And I think they are actually doing a decent job explaining why she's the holdout that's in charge of the Resistance later on. Right. Yeah. Because it seems like we're in for some sort of coup against the Galactic Order here in the Empire's favor soon.
It's coming fast because you can't have all this happen. And it interesting because I even thought at the end of this episode, I thought, that was too soon. Just give me 5 minutes more into this. I just want to see. I want to see how Thrawn gets back into the game. Okay. I just end the episode with that because now we got to wait, but
we got to wait a week and then we're going to have to wait a long while for anything to come back,
And it's a damn shame because they introduced so many new connections in this episode that, why do we need to wait years now to see how this all plays out. Like, why are they doing that? You know, even when Lucas was in charge, it was a little frustrating. But you know, every 2 years you had a movie. I mean, and you knew it was coming, and you had the merchandising and everything to like kind of tide you over. You know, between the movies. I mean, just talking from my point of view as being a like a vintage fan of the series. Now we're looking at like 2 or 3 years before we're going to see how this story plays out. And I think they've really, I don't know, it's kind of like a tease. Like they've really exposed too much to us.
I feel like a lot of things really dropped with that Rangers of the Republic or whatever series that they decided not to do, because I'm feeling that a lot of the politics that they want to talk about
Would be in that.
that we're supposed to be in that, but they're interspersing it, you know, between like the Mandalorian, this, and I don't know what they're going to do with the Skeleton Crew when it comes out, but all that still has to be addressed. And actually, to me, a lot of my interest lies towards like the political stuff and everything. So, but I know I'm not going to get that. So I'm fine with what I'm seeing with Ahsoka here. And it's sort of feeling like it's more than just like Ahsoka show, you know, for the most part. I mean, just to talk about some other elements and everything, we got to see, Ezra, in action using the Force.
With no lightsaber, because he didn't need it.
Insisting he doesn't need one. You know, he has a Force at his back, and it's right.
It's like a golden gun from GoldenEye 007, right? Like,
oh man.
And what was the training scene with Ahsoka and the training tapes that Anakin recorded for her, and what was the significance between he did 20 tapes, and that was the last one. So there had to be something there. Like she even made a point. Ahsoka was like, and that was the last one. He left me after that.
Well, I mean, it just told me that we're going to see many more tapes, or a few more tapes of Anakin Hayden Christensen, pseudo training her and everything with those tapes.
She's going to rewatch them then.
Yeah, pretty much. So he's not done with this series, come second season.
Steady work for Hayden. That's good for everybody.
Yeah. But we like I said, we got to see, Ezra using the Force, which was pretty decent. I still want to see something more grand with him, because I still feel that they're downplaying his whole comeback from what we last left with, him in Rebels. He keeps saying, okay, well, it's just time to go back home and everything. Let's get Ezra back home so we can, get this show on the road and see exactly, how stuff is going to go down. And if Ahsoka season 2, let's just call that Rebels season 7 or season 5 or whatever.
And shouldn't Thrawn be a little more aggravated that Ezra's back in the picture? I mean, because that scene because Ezra basically thwarted his entire game.
Yeah.
By expelling him to not to the Never regions, not to the Unforbidden Zone. He sent him to another friggin' galaxy, like
far, far away.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't just a short prison term. Like you're going to do 20 years and easy. No, he ejected him out of the galaxy completely.
How many times harder should it be to do what they do here? Like it seems like it's weird, because it seems like from a mathematical perspective, it should be many millions and thousands of times harder for them to hit this exact star system in another galaxy, right? Because that's so. I mean, you think it's inside a galaxy. You zoom out, and the whole galaxy's here, and the new galaxy's like 3 miles that way because of how far apart stuff is in space. So shouldn't it be like way harder to go between galaxies than this? It seems like more than one person figured out how to do it like in a week. It should be a higher bar to entry a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And how long should it take? How long were they in transit? Like a year? Because it takes you a week to go across the galaxy. And again, we're talking many thousands of times further.
Yeah, Ahsoka has been traveling in that whale for a long time. Like,
I thought it would have been funny if they made that whale travel like relativistic, so it did take like forever. She gets there, it's been 10 more years. Oh my god! Oh, Thrawn's been gone for 10 years. They get back to this galaxy, it's like just way later. Everything's done.
everything's on fire.
Yeah.
They,
That's on my side.
They do get to see it like, you know, pretty easily. You know, Sabine's already there and stuff, and we got you know, Ahsoka trusting the space whales, you know, the Purgle to you know, to find it. You know, Yuang's like, well, how do you know where they're going to lead us, where we're going to, you know, where it's going to go? And she just smiles at him and everything. And, you know, I thought it was kind of weird that that Sabine didn't think when Ezra asked her about Ahsoka, and she didn't exactly say that, you know, she thought she died.
Yeah, it was too much. It was too much. She couldn't tell him all.
Is that how you took it? I thought it was just weird that she just didn't say that, you know, and just left like a little smile on her face, you know.
How would you explain to somebody? Let's just continue the history lesson. How would you explain to somebody how World War II happened? How in let's say 10 minutes? How would you?
Okay. Not to put it into context, you know, she had to go through like the battle of Endor, you know, that we won and everything, and you know, it's a lot, you know, it's a lot that went on that he didn't.
Think about explaining that to someone in like from 1938. Be like, okay, so there is everything is made of atoms. You got to start there, right? You have to explain what an atomic bomb is. You have to be
Steve
like
Rogers.
Yeah, Steve
After
Rogers.
America came along,
ice, and you know what all happened in between the time that he got, you know, got put into the ice and stuff.
You got to tell almost the whole story and then go, okay, so while all that is going on, the United States is doing, and then you have to go on and then be like, so they dropped the bomb. They'd be like, what? That's insane.
Yeah, it would be too much. How would you explain to Ezra that basically everything basically fell apart? You know, we thought everything was good, but then it all collapsed and everything fell apart, and Ahsoka's dead. She didn't know.
And I'm here even though
another galaxy.
I let Thrawn come back basically to find you. You know, no big deal there. That's a pretty big. That's something to drop on.
How about this? Sabine's probably like, you know what? If I tell Ezra that I opened the gate to allow Thrawn to come back where he expelled him to, how pissed do you think Ezra would be? He'd be like, I went through all this to get rid of this guy, and you're telling me you opened the portal, because she did, right? Basically, Sabine gave the map over to Baylan, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It was her fault.
Yeah.
It's her fault that Thrawn is now able to get back to where Ezra expelled him from. How would you explain that to your buddy?
And then the whole first half of that episode, Ezra's like, yep, I've been fine. Just totally fine. Me and the snail people that got me this caravan, we've been driving around the planet. I've been cool the whole time. No stress at all.
I'm keeping this a secret for now because I like where this is at, and I'm getting like 3 squares a day, and I'm like protected. and if I tell my,
you seem like you're in a good mood, you know.
Yeah, you're in a good mood. You're like hippie dude. You look like Jesus. You know, I mean, you got all. You know, I'm not gonna go tell you that I basically undid what you did.
We'll save all that for if we make it back to the home galaxy. Yeah. We'll let you know on the way if those whales come back or whatever.
It's like 8,000 years travel time.
Well, I mean, what's going to happen when Ahsoka starts, yakking her mouth and everything? You know,
Ezra's gonna.
She's going to look at Sabine like, you did what?
Ezra's going to be like, why are you trying to teach a blind person how to tell what color? Like, you know, filter they're looking at. They're never going to be able to tell you that. They can't see it. And like, I love that Sabine's like, Ahsoka's been training me. And Ezra's like, oh, yeah, that's pretty great. I guess he's like, you must be doing real good work. He's like, you're blind and you can't. It'd be like, you know, it's like Chirrut from, from Rogue One. And he's blind and stuff. And people being like, you know, oh, you can't see shit. So I enjoyed that little double take that he did. He's like, oh, yeah, I remember you were getting trained before.
Really? That's great. It makes a lot of sense. What else are you not telling me?
Wow. So you're being trained as a Jedi, and the Emperor's dead.
Emperor.
Some things are better left unsaid at the moment.
Yeah.
But
so Ezra and Luke have to meet. Like that's I think the other missing connection here is that we need to know what's going on with Ezra and his relationship to that Jedi temple that we see in the sequel trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
We need to know if is this a situation our colleague T. Mitch has talked about Boken Jedi and Council Jedi and Dark Jedi and all the different mixtures and flavors of Jedi that there are. Is this a new thing is what we're seeing, right? So I think that's another really interesting question is how are we going to see all of these things be integrated? Is Ahsoka going to is Ahsoka like a member of the staff? Like, is this going to be a Hogwarts situation where now we're meeting all the professors? You know what I mean? And Sabine's going to be the professor of not using the Force for anything.
how far, when will Kylo Ren be born?
It would be a convenient reason for Leia not to be around right now if she was busy
with child,
with a child, or having a child, or gestating a child, or considering having a child with CGI Harrison Ford, which we can still do. They could do that right now if they wanted. They could do that today.
Hey, well, I mean, they
wait
still
too
got,
long.
They still got Alden, so that's
true.
That's the backup. I would accept Alden and everything.
I would too at this point, right?
Yeah, he did.
You know what I mean? He was. I still think he was good, and I think if you literally etched Harrison Ford's face on his face, that's an A+ movie. It's so terrible to even say that, but how do you separate? Like, there's only so many. Like, you couldn't like with Indiana Jones, right? Like, you wouldn't make a prequel and have it really be Sean Patrick Flannery anymore, right? You wouldn't use the adult grown Sean Patrick Flannery to play that part. You use Harrison Ford, and you'd see Jai's face onto whatever you were going to do.
Right.
I think Han Solo being a huge movie star, I know it was not meant to be that way, but making him strikingly recognizable, I think there is something to that and what that has meant for the legacy of that character over time. The fact that that's Harrison Ford, you're watching Star Wars because Harrison Ford's in it. It's not Spaceballs because that's Harrison Ford on TV, right? Like, right away what it is. It's not Bill Pullman. That's Harrison Ford, right? That's Chewie, not Barf.
Not John Candy.
Right. It's not John Candy. And that, Ken, that speaks to maybe, again, my perspective, right? Because your experience with Star Wars started with the movies and just because of when it was, like, no home video, no replay, none of that stuff. And for me, like, growing up, Star Wars was on TBS all the time. Like, it was on TV a lot. So it was just around. And that's something that maybe is different now that it's all gated on Disney Plus. All the good stuff's on there.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because if I wanted to see it, I had to go to the movies. I had to go to the theater. It was something I had to actively do. It eventually came home for video, but that was like rare, and not too many people had VHS players, and it was just, and it was never on TV. I don't think it was on TV until our era, our generation, where it was actually on television, like you said, Steel City, where it was on TBS. And even then, it was very rare that you'd catch it because you'd have to know when it was going to be on. And I think now we're looking at it, we're so immersed, and I think that's a great thing because it should be. This is a great story, and I think the writers, Filoni particularly, they're bringing it back. They're bringing it back, the soul, but it's we can digest it easier because it's we can just
that spirit is back.
Yeah. And all these points that we're making, like, we're just looking for more. We're looking for more, and are they going to give it to us? Are they going to give it to us in nice, evenly spaced out chunks, or are we going to like have to wait now to find out how this all plays out? Ugh.
One thing about this series that it has in common with Andor is that I would watch like Tales of the Jedi style series about any of these characters fleshing their backstory out, like all of them.
Any of them. Yep.
Balin, Shin, like all of them.
Shin.
Morgan, like I want to see those night mothers. I want to know what their deal is so bad. Like I want to see how they got to this point.
Tales of the Jedi animated, or you want like a live action? Like,
animated's fine.
Animated, like I like how they fleshed out Ahsoka's backstory and Dooku's backstory, like in Tales of the Jedi. What I'm saying is that they've created a nice like a mix of characters that's very rich in that they'd have to go way down, like you'd have to go below Enoch on this bench before I'd be like, I don't know if I need to know all that. Like you know what I mean? If you showed me the genesis of the snail people, I'd be like, let's keep it to 10 minutes.
And so something that occurred to me, and I guess it's circulating the internet, and my wife mentioned it, but the night troopers are wrapped in red ribbons. So there's speculation, like what do the mothers, what have they done? Is it a healing element?
That's a good point. They still go down just as easy as other Star Troopers.
Right.
Yeah.
They go down
They're
just
not
as easy as
special.
any Star Wars, any stormtroopers. You know, they may hit a little more accurately, you know, with their blasters. I didn't see them really kill anybody. 3
dudes in a row go around the corner the same way.
Right.
They fall down. Yeah.
But they're wrapped, and at first I thought they were painted, like it was like blood. You know, it was like a shock, just to intimidate the enemy. But in this episode, we saw them moving, and they were ribbons. They were red ribbons that were wrapped like bandages. So are they bandages that are like maybe soaked in blood? Are they like, is it a healing thing or control? Is it a way that the guarantee that Thrawn has ultimate control over these night troopers? There's a lot of speculation on the internet, and I don't know.
So I think the 3 colors that are interesting with the night troopers are the white of the armor that seems like it's the original stuff, and then there's gold, and gold seems like a repair of some sort, like something fixed. And that, like the Chimera, we see that it's all messed up and it's got all those gold parts, and the Enoch's face is all gold right here. Like that's what it seems like, a repair. But the red, like if you were doing like a theater production of Romeo and Juliet or some Shakespeare or whatever, right? And someone got stabbed, you might use red cloth, right? And just pull it out of like a pocket or something to denote blood.
Right.
To denote injury, right? So it's not, I don't think, a coincidence that the Night Mothers are all wearing that red. Like that's their color.
Right.
Like all their powers and stuff are red. We don't even have red lightsabers really in this show. We just have red means the Night Sisters. So I think it's very weird and obvious that there's some sort of dark side blood magic-y thing going on here where, why are we taking all of these? Why are we emptying the crypts, guys? Like that, why are we doing that? That's a weird behavior in any show, right? To go, well, first we have to empty the burial grounds. Like that's not something that would sound normal ever in any show. And maybe it's just that it's Halloween season. And this is the season. It's pumpkin spice time.
Are all these troopers are they like zombies? Are they dead, and are they undead? Have they been recycled clone troopers that have been brought back by some dark magic of some sort that the Night Mothers are capable of wrapping them in these red bandages and bringing them back? So these soldiers have all been killed during the Battle of Endor or the Battle of Hoth, and they've been brought back now, undead, completely compliant, and they will do whatever you tell them to do. And they're under some mystical spell of some sort. And but they did, as soon as they got the retreat order, they hightailed and ran. So there's still some human element to them, but are they under some sort of magic control because of these ribbons?
That's the dream when you having an army or soldiers that will reply to your command without any hesitation or question is the dream of any conqueror. I think and there's a book called The Education of Cyrus by an old Greek general named Xenophon. And there's a point where Cyrus, after a battle, is talking about all the great feats that he saw and everybody, oh, you slew this champion, and he singles this one guy out and he says, hey, I gave the order to retreat and you were standing over a guy with a sword about to kill them and you just stopped and left. And he says, this is the guy that I'm going to reward the most because he did what I said so fast and right away that he didn't even bother trying to collect the glory of killing this person, right? It didn't even occur to him to matter. Listening to me was what's most important. And I think we talk about the political ramifications of the changes in the galaxy far, far away. This is the advantage that autocracy has over democracy, which is one will, singular will. Nobody listens. But the question that, I think has been answered, but some people don't think has been answered, which is stronger, the collective or the individual, right? And I think that Star Wars in a lot of ways is showing us that, yeah, ultimately over the long run, the collective is stronger, but the individual can gain purpose and gain buy-in and can really make a huge dent on that. And I think Star Wars is really showcasing those two things, and that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's prescient too,
which we're not happy about. No, nobody's happy that's prescient.
Yeah, because Thrawn would want that. Thrawn would want that. He needs that because when he gets an idea and he knows how something's going to play out, so he's already 10 steps ahead, and he knows where he needs his military to be. He needs soldiers that are just going to go do it, like whatever. And I think we've seen over these different series that we're enjoying now, we've seen like no buy-in. We've seen Imperials with like no real skin in the game. We've seen them kind of thinking about themselves and their families and not really completely invested in the Imperial idea, the concept. I think Andor had a lot of that. I think Andor showed us stormtroopers that were like, I ain't going down like that. Nuh-uh.
There's a guard that just didn't care. They're just like, you know what? I wasn't that bad to you guys, and I'm just gonna hide.
Yeah, I'm gonna go this way. There's a lot of like noise over here. I'm going this way, and there was really no what's the word? There was no. They weren't held. Their feet weren't held to the fire. Basically,
like that.
Yeah, like they are now. I think with this magic that Thrawn has control over, I think now we've got feet to the fire, and we're gonna have a huge battle at some point, and it's gonna be we're gonna all be thinking we're gonna be sitting in our chairs like, wow, how is this gonna work out? Are the good guys gonna win or the bad guys gonna win? And who are the bad guys actually? Like what constitutes a bad guy?
Yeah, it's very like questions on like the definitions of good and evil and everything. It's just a matter of perspective, who's actually ultimate good, because we see like these the quote unquote New Republic, they're just acting. They're all out of sorts and everything and can't get themselves together and stuff. So, it's almost like right for Thrawn to come over and, take over that descent. So.
And right the ship. Like even that Senator Ziano, is that how you say his name? I mean, he's kind of a jerk.
Yeah. Well, it's an age-old question.
He was supposed to be a good guy, and he's kind of a jerk.
Well, he's a fifth columnist, right? There's a bunch of them apparently. But the question I think that is pretty age-old in politics is, would you prefer a competent tyranny or an incompetent democracy? Like, which would you pick? Boy. And a lot of people seem to be thinking about picking the competent tyranny. That's what's happening to the Star Wars universe right now.
Prescient.
I'd rather see things running in a positive direction. I mean, running, it's working. As opposed to a lot of fighting and nitpicking going on where things aren't really getting done and no one really knows what the objective is.
Yeah. Until somebody gets killed over it. So
yeah, would you rather a bunch of people get shot and the trains run on time, or have the trains be a little bit late?
Who's getting shot? We can pick. Am I getting shot?
I don't know. The Emperor was putting the kill hammer down. pretty
Yeah.
good.
Like
Yeah.
Mario,
I don't know, we
like
can't-
Donkey Kong.
Anybody who opposed him, and yeah.
Especially Jedi.
Right? Is that?
That's it. That's what the Emperor does. All right, everybody. That's Carbonite Bounty BS for tonight. Ahsoka Season 1, Episode 7. This has been your review. Check us out on our website, nerdcyclopedia.com. Send us feedback at nerds@nerdcyclopedia. And for the rest of the nerds, this is the way.
This is the way.